The US and China are suspending their trade war for 90 days, dramatically ratcheting back the massive tariff walls that they had erected. Our guest says President Trump is clearly not willing to incur pain over tariffs because American voters aren't. But he does expect more twists and turns in this one. Marko Papic joins us now, chief strategist at BCA Research. The Guardian, of course, newspaper in Britain, no fan of President Trump, says this isn't a liberation day, it's a capitulation day by President Trump. Would you say there's any truth to that?
I think that's probably an unfair assertion, to be honest with you, because it's I'm pretty sure the Guardian also wouldn't have wanted him to start a trade war anyways. Ultimately, President Trump has very unclear preferences. He has very unstable preferences. They vary according to constraints. And so ultimately, just because he doesn't want to restructure the global trade architecture in the next 3 months, doesn't necessarily mean that this step down is objectively an incorrect move or that it's a capitulation. We will have to see what the deal looks like in the end.
You say, though, that politically Trump is not willing to accept the voter anger that would result from, for example, rapidly higher prices in America because of his tariffs?
Well, it's not just that. Actually, any poll that you look at, I mean, from any organization, Pew, Ipsos, Cato Institute, whatever you look at, the polls are pretty clear. Nobody has ever actually wanted a trade war. Americans rank that as one of the least important issues that President Trump should deal with. And then actually, if you look at some of the long-term trends in America, when Americans are asked if trade contributes to jobs and economic growth, they've increasingly become actually pro-globalization since the last time President Trump was the president. So it's not so much that President Trump doesn't want any pain. I think that he's finally become current to what the Americans want.
That's interesting that people have become more open to the idea that America benefits from trade. Do you think this thing is, well, it's not going to blow over, but do you think deals will be reached with America's crucial trading partners within the next few months, and that the concerns of the market about a recession or big disruption are overblown?
Well, you mentioned earlier that I believe that, ultimately there'll be more twists and turns. Yes, to answer your question directly, there will be deals. Will there be more twists and turns, particularly with, for example, Europe, which could see some risks because obviously UK and China have started negotiating earlier? I think, again, yes. The question is, will the market care about any of this? Once the market has realized what the objective constraints are for President Trump, and once the market has realized that President Trump reacts to those constraints in a very logical, rational way, I think the market is going to look through future twists and turns. And so it's going to be very difficult for bears to continue to point to trade as a reason to be bearish on the market, almost regardless of what the hard data starts looking like.
What is important for American voters? Just to remind us, if trade was not top of their mind, what was it?
There were three really issues. One was almost universally, it was actually immigration. And in this way, this US election was similar to that in Canada as well. The second issue was actually just overall economic performance. And then the third issue was inflation. And so, when I look at that, and trade is way down the line, it's just clear that President Trump had an outdated view of globalization and tariffs. And what's kind of intriguing to me is that nobody in finance has actually bothered to look at the polling, to look at the data, to update their own preferences. And so instead, everyone's writing these very bearish notes saying, oh my God, President Trump is going to, redraw the trade architecture of the world, and Americans want to work on an assembly line, even though according to polls I've looked at, more Americans want to be cowboys than they want to work in a factory. Facts. And so here we are. President Trump is making trade deals very quickly.
I mean, you said the Canadian election was about immigration. You could say it was about stuff stemming from immigration, rapid population growth causing housing shortages and eroding government services. But it's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that angle on our election as much. Marko, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. We always learn something from you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Marko Papic, Chief Strategist at BCA Research. We're out of time on trading day. Thank you very much indeed for watching our show. Markets